brand. They have this thing about who they are, and it just is, right? It is. So, kind of taking that in the sense of the individuals who haven't stepped into that, I'm gonna wear my camo and pink. How should everyone brand themselves first? And then when you think about individuals who are in law firms versus government positions, how does branding yourself work? And is it even really necessary in those circumstances?
No, I'll say yes, and I'm gonna give you a story, right, about branding. Wherever you are, you're a brand, right? And you have to make sure law firms, people hire people. They don't hire the law firm, they hire you as a lawyer, right? So when I decided in 2018 that I was gonna transition into being a professional speaker and come out of the practice of law, one of the things I started to do was to elevate my profile, right? Elevate my profile as a speaker. That didn't go so well, right, with my partners in my firm. I got a text message, and we had a text message battle over the fact that I was raising my profile as a brand, right? Raising my brand profile. And it's funny because that same day, there was an article that was put out about lawyers having to brand themselves. And so I said to him, well, that's funny, I think you need to go read this article. And yes, I am gonna elevate my brand because people hire people, they don't hire firms, they don't hire companies. So all of you have a brand, you just have to decide what that brand is, right? I knew that my brand was going to be professional speaker and I needed to come out differently, right? I worked in the government, I was a public defender, go public defender, right? And I was also an employment lawyer, right? And so in those spaces, you still are who you are. You still are that brand because when you leave and do whatever else you're gonna do, then people are gonna remember that. I had a client just call me yesterday, he said, I remember everything that you said to me, right? Because that's how I branded myself as a person who teaches, right? And as a person who is going to communicate information. So you are a brand, you just have to decide who you want to be in the world and what that brand represents, and that's whether you're in a law firm or you're in the government.
I would just add to that, it's very important to understand that you can maintain your brand in terms of this question of how you should start versus how you finish. You can maintain your brand, be authentic to yourself, and still, address the particularities of where you're trying to go. And I'll use myself as an example. So I joined SVP, and that is a company that is jointly owned by the Bill Gates real estate company, as well as Jeff Bennett, who's the owner of the Lightning. So I interviewed with everyone, including Jeff Bennett. It was a several month process. But, someplace during that interview, I had to address the fact that I'm not really into hockey. I've never really watched a lot of the games. This man goes to every single hockey game, flies to every single game. So it is important, but I don't think the correct way would have been to try to read up on hockey and pretend like I am. But I was very honest about that fact. So that, I wanted to engage and learn, and I was very authentic to myself, still acknowledging the importance of hockey to the brand, the corporate brand, and also acknowledging the fact that, hey, I've never really been into that. I grew up in Florida. I would love to go to some games, and now, granted, a Stanley Cup championship team is one of the easier ones to watch, but now I go all the time. So I think that is the challenge for many of us because we're really in situations, I'm not an avid golfer. that tends to be one of the more popular activities in legal firms. So, I think there's this competition where you try to immerse yourself into something that really is not true to you or true to yourself versus, hey, acknowledging, listen, I'd rather go to boot camp on Saturday, you go golf, but still kind of having that mutual respect there and, acknowledging, what other things exist in the world. So I think there is a way to just stay and maintain your own brand, represent yourself authentically in your own brand, but acknowledging that your brand, that's part of the reason that you kind of stick out or in an individual, but acknowledging the mutual of the other brands around you without feeling the need to kind of immerse yourself in that.
Perfect, I agree. So I'll start with what I do when I usually walk into a room and introduce myself. My name is Karen Skyers. I'm an Afro-Latina from the Bronx.
All right.
So, so about me. I'm not from Florida. I'm biracial. Possibly speak another language. I'm a city girl. No, maybe I shouldn't say that, right? I don't know. I'm that young, so I don't know if I should say a city girl, but I'm not, I'm from urban area. I'm the mother of 3 adult children. I have 2 6-year-old granddaughters, so bear with me when I tell you this. So this journey that I started so many years, over 30 years ago, believe it or not, happened after, let me say after, during the time that I was married with 2 children at the time, and by the time all of this was over, obviously, I'm divorced with 3 children, and single and going to law school with 1 in elementary, 1 in middle, and 1 in high school. And so the important thing about branding yourself and marketing yourself is, who am I? Right? Like, who am I? And I want people to know who I am, because just like she said, people hire people. People want to do business with people that they like. So if you like me, you want me to make money. I've come to the realization when I started my own brand that some people can't afford me. Corporations can. Right? Corporations can. So what I did was I modeled my business and my branding and my marketing to corporations. And people that I knew, I was like, I need $20,000. I don't need no $250 for, your. But you have to know that about yourself. You have to know that about, your specific, whatever it is that you want to practice. As you can see, I am half Jamaican. Yeah. I have 17 jobs. I run a full-time law firm, and I also have a consulting firm where I teach women and men, but more women, to do the things that they want to do. So very individual one-on-one classes, one-on-one coaching, how to be confident. And I'll share this quickly and I'll close, but I don't always wear my hair like this, right? So as you can see, when I was working for a corporation, I just said, let me look corporate, right? And I thought, because at the time, this is the look, right? This look ain't gonna give me too much days now. We still have the issue with Black women in hair, right? And so a young paralegal at the public defender's office, after she did what she did, she said to me, the first time I saw you walk into court, criminal court, with an afro and hot pink lipstick, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And she is currently in private practice, 5 years, doing family law and doing well. And she was an 18-year-old mom. So think about what you want as an individual, what you want as a professional, because those are 2 very different things. Find a way to merge those, but again, always be authentic. Always walk into the room with the utmost confidence, because you know what you know. Nobody knows what I don't know. You don't know what I don't know something, right? So you can't ask me, and this is for most of the lawyers. Even if you're not a lawyer, I'm going to teach you what I paid $200,000 for. Nobody can ask you a question that you don't have the answer to. Right? Even if you say, I don't know the answer to that, that's your answer. Let me get back to you. Right? So I'll close with that.
Wow. Okay. Because code switching has kind of come up. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. Code switching has come up a few times in today's session, like just in general. And when I think about what code switching is and how I just often do it, I mean, you can't really help it, right? So when we're talking about branding and being authentic to you, I don't think the question is code switching good or bad, but I don't think the answer is it good or bad.
Okay.
Is it always appropriate to use it, or do you just kind of go with it and just jump in and do what they did?
I think code switching could be seen as somewhat appropriate, right? You have to, let's not pretend. There are certain places that we're not gonna go and be like, yo, what up? Right? I wanted to come in here with my Miami slides on today. Right? Because I was like, these my homegirls. I've been in the room with Black women in so long. I'm so excited. I don't know what to do, right? But there are certain situations where we find ourselves, and just like Kim said, she doesn't love hockey, but it was something about the position where now she's open to it. right? And there are things that we're gonna learn. You know, I don't particularly love golf, but I'm gonna go do it, right? I go and I attend and I do those things that are not always comfortable for me. They don't change me now, right? I'm not going skydiving, right? I'm not going hiking or online, right? There's some lines that you draw, but in order to be in a professional setting, we know that code switching exists because we don't want to be offensive, right? Because we don't want to be offended, right? So we have to be very careful when we do that, but at the same time, still be your authentic self. And I think that there's always a way to do that with, you know, your professionalism, how you come across, what you say to people, what you wear, how you look, you know, how your hair is, how your everything. It's just, and it's harder for women because, you know, most men can just get up in the morning and sometimes they shave, sometimes I don't even know what they do, right? But I know that sometimes for us, I mean, if we can get ready in 15 minutes, that means that we did everything. Your hair is done, the wig is on, you know, you're not wearing makeup, you got Vaseline on your lips, and you're just going out into the world, right? But it takes time to do those things. So I think that code switching is just part of our everyday existence, right? Like if I came in here like I usually look on the weekend with my New York Yankees baseball cap, a tank top, and jeans, nobody would recognize and say, you know, that's Karen, the attorney. They'll just be like, right? But then if I go somewhere and I'm dressed like that, you know, and somebody says something, or you know, you have to show your authentic self. You know, then you have to drop the mic and let them know, you know, hold the beer. But I am an attorney. I am this. I am that. You know, whatever. And I don't always lead off with that I'm an attorney, but you have to let people know at certain times your qualifications and that you belong in that same exact group. Yeah.
No, I would say I 110% agree with everything that Karen just said. And to me, yeah, it goes without saying. And being, you know, lawyers or whatnot, I mean, we just already know how we are going to enter court. I mean, it just does not involve the language thing at all. I would say, just in terms of when I started out, code switching tend to also, you know, be analogous to this, like, oh, we wear the mask type of deal. And I think that too is moving away because we are becoming more comfortable being our authentic selves in the context of what is traditionally seen as a very conservative practice, the practice of law in a private firm, just to use the primary example. And that is with our hair, with, you know, our clothing, with, I mean, back in the day, I had a very firm line, like no coworkers are on my social media accounts or looking into my private, personal, day-to-day life. But now, I mean, just in terms of being authentic, this is me. If you guys want to be friends, like, and you want to see what I do on the weekend, it's probably a little different from how you spend yours. What, you know, so like, I no longer see the need for us to, in order to be successful, and this is where the thought once was, to kind of make that separation, because part of you getting to know me as a person and being authentic is maybe looking into how I enjoy my weekends, looking into that, you know, I hang out with my family, or, you know, I see my nephews, or, you know, things of that nature. So, I mean, the language is one thing, but I also think this movement towards authenticity and branding ourselves and really uplifting that authenticity, because there's nothing wrong with it in the first place. There is no need to wear that mask, so to speak.
I would say to think of code switching as time and place, right? And so there's a time for everything, there's a place for everything. And one of the things that I learned very, very early as a lawyer is how to play the game. This is the game. You have to navigate, you have to understand the rules, and you have to understand how you're going to navigate those rules and how you're going to play the game to win, right? And so if it means that in certain situations, like when I was in trial, sometimes when my hair was curly, I would wear it straight. Why am I doing that? Because I'm trying to remove a barrier, right? I know that people have, in 7 seconds, people make an impression about you. What they're saying is, are you trustworthy and are you competent? When I'm in front of a jury, I don't have time for them to be going through that. I need you to get past that because I need you to understand I am here, right? And there are things that I live by, and they are that I belong everywhere I am, but I don't belong everywhere, right? What that means is if I'm in a room, I belong there. I don't care what you think. I don't care what questions you have. I don't have any questions. I belong there. But I also know that I don't belong everywhere, which means that not every person in not every room deserves my presence. Right? And so therefore, you can switch, you can call, you call, whatever you want to. I understand time and place. I also know that I'm very powerful at my core. And so there is nothing, you might shake me a little bit, but you will not put me down, right? Because my core is powerful. It's why they tell you in the gym to make sure your core is powerful. I used to compete. I used to be a fitness bikini competitor. And what they told me is you got to make sure that your core is solid, right? I had 9% body fat and a ripped six-pack abs. Why? Because that is what kept me standing in 6-inch plastic heels on a stage in a bikini. So what I want from you all to understand is that you have to be powerful at your core, and it doesn't matter. Who cares if they say, oh, she's code switching? I don't give a damn. I'm here. I'm here. It doesn't matter, right? I understand time and place. It's something my mom taught me a long time ago, right? Time and place. And so, yes, if my Converse don't make it into that room and I have to wear heels, then I just have to wear heels. I don't care what you think about it. It's what I think about it and how I feel about showing up because I belong there, right? And so for me, I don't think about these things. I think we have a lot of things that people put on us about code switching, imposter syndrome, and we take these things on. It is a label to disempower, to devalue, to dehumanize, to degrade, to discount. Don't take it on. It doesn't belong to you.
Some individuals tend to shy away, especially in the initial parts of, I think, kind of getting into the profession. And certainly the earlier parts of the profession, you had women shying away from branding or marketing themselves as women. Or you'll see nowadays, I'm a woman attorney, lady attorney, sisters-in-law is everywhere now, right? But for a while, we didn't really see that. And similarly, you have some reservations about marketing yourself as a black or as a black woman. So I think the question is it a do? Is it a don't? Is it a time and place thing? Because there is a question there. How do I am a black woman and I love being a black woman. So if I'm gonna brand and market myself in that way, what does that look like? How do I go about doing it? Should I?
I say just do it. And I said, listen, do what feels right for you. So when I practice law, which I don't anymore, when I practice law, people would ask me, what do you do for a living? I said, I work in a law firm. I didn't care if they thought I was the secretary, the copy girl, the assistant to the managing, I didn't care. Like, that doesn't matter to me. One thing that I understood fully, is that being a lawyer is what I did for a living, not who I am as a person.
Come on.
Right? And so when you're marketing yourselves, whether you're a black woman, a black attorney, whatever it is that you're marketing yourself as, that is not the lead, right? That is a level of credibility and a level of people being able to understand that, okay, I'm gonna attach something to her because she's gone to law school. I'm gonna attach something to her because she's an attorney. But don't lead, right? You're competent. What is it that you do? What is your specialty? How are you gonna help people? How are you gonna transform their lives? That's what you need to lead with. And guess what? I happen to be a black woman attorney, right? And whether you want me or not, that's on you. But you don't have to be afraid to do it. If you want to do it, right? It is what it is. When I was in Broward County, there was a judge who had to not say he was black, right? And not put his face on his billboards, and he actually won, and he's Jamaican. He was Jamaican, right? But because he won, and then they were like, oh, he's black. Then they put up people to run against him, right, the next time. And so it is what it is. You are black, you are beautiful, you're brilliant, you're badass. It is what it is, right? So however you want to market yourself about that, then do that. So.
I was like, what is
So
that?
just do you, in other words, do you, market yourself. Now, if you're trying to attract Black women, Black men, right? If you're trying to attract a particular audience and you think that you saying that is going to bring them in, right? Immigration attorneys do this all the time, right? If they're Jamaican, if they're from the Caribbean, whatever, because they want to attract those people in. So just think about in terms of your marketing, right? What is important to get to your ideal client and use that?
So I have a slightly different perspective to offer just on the side that I am now. And working with the group I am with now, one of the things I did oversee was small minority business engagement in terms of procuring, making sure that we had vendors and firms and developers of color who own small businesses. And I was just very surprised at the degree by which I guess some businesses went out of their way to tell me, listen, I'm not a Black-owned business, I'm a business. And so I just found that to be a little bit just surprising. I didn't know what to make of that. I will say this. There is no better way to distinguish yourself as being a top-tier candidate in a stack of resumes than to be a Black top-tier candidate in a stack of resumes. And it is the reason that was alluded to in terms of you having to walk 150 miles to see the next one. In an atmosphere where there seems to be at least a spoken desire to diversify, and we already know without saying we have the talent in our pool, let people know you're a Black lawyer. I, for one, just having the number of years under my belt now, I made no mistake, I want you to know that, because when I get a position of leadership, I'm going to offer a perspective that is from the Black female perspective. And I want that position to be heard, I want it to be acknowledged, and I want you to understand the different perspectives so that we can, minimize so many of these, tragic marketing types of things that we see when we don't have those diverse perspectives at the table. So I totally agree. You have to do what feels comfortable for you. You have to do you. But when you get to positions of leadership, consider the obligation to bring that perspective to the table, to make it known so that you can then continue to open doors for others as you move forward. So, I mean, it's ultimately up to you, absolutely.
I agree, and I'll keep it very brief. I think it's super important to let people know who you are, because that's who you are, right? So when I call you or when I look on your website, I'm gonna know you're Black, right? So people don't always say, when they see me, they say just, a Black woman. But I take it upon myself to say I'm an Afro-Latina, right? I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Jamaican, I'm Cuban, because I offer you a unique perspective, right? I come to you from a major city. Now I'm in the South. She read to you, everything that I've done. And so why is that important? Because when we walk into different rooms, people don't, just Kim has known me for almost 10 years, probably over 10 years. And she just said, oh my God, I learned something new about you today, right? And just like I can tell you, I didn't even know that cramps weren't normal. I was today years old. And I did not know that I was not supposed to have cramps. So it's a unique perspective. The doctor shares with us her uniqueness and what she does, right? She's like, I'm focusing on hormone therapy, women, Black women, we have special issues that we need to focus on, and we would have never known anything about Chinese medicine or anything else had she not come to us with that. So if she would have just said, hey, I'm just a Black woman, I'm just a doctor, or where's the doctor, the other doctor, psychologist, she's just like, but they came with us with this perspective of, not only am I a Black woman, but I understand our individual challenges, and I can teach other people about it. You can educate them. And then what that does is it creates just some uniformity in what we're trying to do, right? And so, again, it's important to let everybody know I'm that.
I'm gonna shift just a little bit because place in branding, marketing, and networking. I mean, yeah, just full stop, right? So, would you say in this day and age that social media is necessary for branding, marketing, or networking?
I'll start again. So, I thought about this question on my drive here from Orlando a lot, because social media is important, but then it's not important. So it just depends. It's very individual, right? It's age-based, race-based, sexist-based, you know, so it just depends on what you are and what you need and what you want, right? So I thought that I wanted to be all over social media. People know me already, right? Like, so my social media I don't need 1 million followers to eat. But other people think that that's important because that's how they get their business, right? I don't necessarily get my business from social media because the people that I deal with are not really on social media. But that doesn't mean it very much, because other people will see that I've done certain things, like, oh, you do expungements. Right, okay, so they'll call you for that. So if you look at social media and you see the trends, right? You'll see me on social media. I have on a suit, I have on, you know, decent clothes. But then one time I put a picture on there when I was at the beach. And somebody called, sent me a joint. Sent to the picture, sent to the post, you know, and told on me and said, hey, why is Karen in a bathing suit on social media? And I'm like, because I'm at the beach. We 25 other female lawyers, and we all in bathing suits, right? So it just became a bigger issue. So you just have to be careful when it comes down to, you know, what you want to portray, right? So, okay, I'm a grandmother who wants to still wear a bikini. Don't judge me. But people do judge you, because they say, okay, so why are we looking at her body on social media? Like, is she somebody that we want to do business with? Some people still hold those beliefs, unfortunately, for women, right? Where we can't be all ourselves, where we can't be all women. Now, why is social media important? Because people will connect with you on social media based on the things that you do. I'm sure we'll get calls today in our inbox and say, heard you speaking, maybe I want to talk to you one-on-one, whatever the case may be. That's how we communicate, right? Suzanne just opened up her own firm, so congratulations. She and I had a conversation about what it is to go into private practice and then having a social media presence. So now she knows, like, that wasn't like what she wanted to do on a daily basis, but in order to get some clientele, there is a social media presence. So again, it just depends on who you want to be, who you want people to think you are, and do you really care, right? Do your clients really care?
Did you find yourself censoring your posts after?
Oh no, I took off everything. No, you're not gonna see any bikini pictures because I caught a lot of heat, right? I ran for office in 2018, and you know, and after that, it was just kind of, I'm like, I'm full grown, got rid of the kids, you know, I'm grown now, right? Like, you know what they say when you have a baby at 17, you know, and then when you get 40 something, you're trying to be 17 again. Okay. I'm 17. But it's important for people to see what I do, right? But it's not important for people to see me at the beach, maybe with, you know, my bikini on. So it's just a little, but like you said, it is important to have it. I do censor it now. I did make it private on my Instagram. So like, you know, I see people that want to do business with me. I'm like, can't, you know, and people get offended by that. So you have to be very, very careful as to how you present yourself on social media. So that's just my thoughts.
Completely agree. I think the two most important things about social media is one, you know, how it portrays you. I too don't really do a lot of branding or professional type of marketing, at least on Instagram and Facebook. I think professionally, by far, the most important one is LinkedIn. And I will say I've even gotten better at LinkedIn. I used to like make fun of my friends all the time. You know, who mastered the art of like that humble brag, oh, I am so humble to ever, you know, and I felt like, oh my God, like you make us supposed to say, I am so humble to ever see boom, 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 but it really is, she's talking about me. professional relationship. So much like you're checking in at the gym on Facebook or Instagram, or like, you know, taking that selfie before you go out, it's literally that for professionals. And everything that you do professionally, you should find a way to make that humble brag on there and get all of those celebratory remarks, because people are looking at them. And it is the hands down easiest and best tool to promote your individual brand. And also, I mean, by promoting your corporate brand, you're also promoting your individual brand and establishing a level of expertise, establishing your name within a respective field, and getting those, what do you call those hits, and getting your names popping up on certain headhunter, you know, tags or whatever. So I think it is important for LinkedIn, the professional piece, and then like Karen said, I too try to be a little bit mindful of, you know, what I post on my personal pages, because I am on the other side, and I see when we're looking at somebody to hire, like somebody's coming to my office with like, did you see this? Or, you know, so the way social media is set up, the way you can save the pictures and get passed along, you know, you just have to decide what you're comfortable with. You know, like Karen said, I mean, we go to the beach all the time, we wear swimsuits. If you're comfortable with that, fine, there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but if for some reason you're in a profession, you're, you know, where you think it may be a concern, you just want to be mindful of those things.
So I'll say I have a love-hate relationship with social media, and I come at it from a different place, right? Because I don't practice anymore. But when I was making the transition, it was something that came up, right? And so I would post different things on my social media. I'm never in a bathing suit. This don't look in a bathing suit right now, so we're not putting that on. But I would post different things on my social media, and I would get text messages, right, from my boss, right? And we would have text message battles about my social media, mine, right? Never belongs to me. And so what ended up happening is I just blocked everybody, right? I blocked everybody in my firm, and then he'd be like, did you block me? I sure did. Yes, I did. I did block you. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna unblock you, but you do it again, I'm blocking you again, and then that's fine. So I unblocked him, and I had to block him again, right? Because he started texting me about things. But on social media, if you are going to, if your goal is at any point to elevate your influence outside of being inside a firm, right? When I started practicing law, I knew I would never be a lawyer for the rest of my life. It was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but I wanted to be able to leverage who I was as a lawyer. So I've taught high school, I've taught college, I've taught graduate school, I've taught law school, I'm a mediator, an arbitrator, all the things, right? And so if those are things that you want to do outside of the practice of law, you have to start to learn how to elevate your influence, right? And you have to leverage social media to do that. So my sister's back there, and she's always on me about my Instagram. I hate Instagram, right? You have to learn how to use those media, right? Because it is media. You have to learn how to use that media to tell people and to guide people into believing you are who you are. Otherwise, they will make it up for you. And when you have social media, if you are trying to elevate your brand and you're trying to market your brand, it has to be consistent. If you go across any of my brands, whether it's my speaker brand or my Ladies Who Leverage brand, there's a consistency. The consistency is black and pink, right? So you'll always see it, it's a particular type of pink, right? And you will always see me, I'm always in some kind of hard, soft thing, right? Even my brands, my logos are hard and soft, right? Because that's who I am, hard and soft. And so whatever it is that you're going to be doing, even as a lawyer, I still think that you have to elevate your profile, because you're not going to stay in one firm, right? You're not gonna stay in one place. I think the longest I've stayed in a law firm is maybe like 3 years. Just like I gotta go. Right? But it has not held me back in terms of being who I am in the world and being where I am at this point, to be able to get fired on October 22nd, 2019, because they said I was unaffordable, right? They couldn't afford me anymore, to, in the midst of a pandemic, being able to build a multiple six-figure business in less time than I was able to make that same money at a law firm. Why was that? Because while I was there, I branded myself. I had elevated my profile to a level. So don't think it's a job, right? Being a lawyer is a job, right? It's something that you need to use for leverage. You can lose that job,
I lost that job, right? I didn't lose anything else. I didn't lose my soul. I didn't lose who I was. And because I knew who I was, it is the reason why I went from being billed out at between $140 to maybe $200 an hour to now demanding and commanding $20,000 to speak to you for less than 90 minutes. You understand? That is the power of branding. That is the power of elevating who you are. That is the power of believing that you are powerful at your core. And I will tell you, I tell people that every single day. You call me, this is how much it costs for me to speak. You don't want to pay it? I'm sitting right here at my house. And they pay me that money to sit in front of my computer dressed this way up. That's branding. So it's so important. So don't think of yourself as just a lawyer, because you may not always be a lawyer by your choice or somebody else's. So you got to think about what that brand is and what you're putting out in the world and how you can leverage. Listen, being a lawyer is one of the best things in terms of skill and being able to leverage. It's probably one of the very few things that no matter what, you never have to work for another person. You never have to work for a person to be a lawyer. Right. If I'm a doctor, I gotta go work somewhere, right? But you can be a lawyer anywhere. But you can also be brilliant and leverage being a lawyer anywhere. So think about your brand and really take it seriously.
We're gonna pin that, because I'm gonna come back to it. But it was mentioned briefly about some of the things that we post on social media. So if you started social media in 2007, like I did, when Facebook finally opened up the high school, you know, maybe you had a Black Planet page, shook your head. I mean, Black Planet, y'all remember Black Planet, right? So how do you deal with some of those like old things that, I mean, because literally nothing got to it. I mean, I got a screenshot of my phone right now. I'm be like, listen, look at this, right? So, how do you deal with that? How do you?
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you what I did. I had to go through all of my social media and delete. Yeah. Right. One day I said, okay, Karen, you got to start listening to some of these folks that know a little something on you, right? Because these are the shoulders that I stand on. So, of course, all of us that come after them and we say, social media is our world, like don't call me, hit me up on this text message or hit me up on Instant Messenger, right? But there's an entire force that they don't deal with that, right? And they don't understand what that is. And we have to understand that this is still a conservative profession, right? So that when I don't wear a jacket, people are still offended that my arms are showing, just like the First Lady, Michelle Obama, right? She came out, her arms were showing, and in the world, you would have thought it was just gonna end. And so, I hired somebody, to help me. Like, I went through stuff, myself, and then I hired somebody to go through all of the social media. There's still stuff on there, but there's not stuff on there that somebody would say, oh, that's super inappropriate. Like, you're not gonna keep everybody happy, right? Some people are gonna be offended because, I'm like, or I didn't stand right, or I'm like, when I'm hanging out with the kids, or so I do things, and some people would think that those things are not appropriate for an attorney or for a businesswoman. But you have to just think about being holistic and being happy, and making sure that whatever happens on social media is to your benefit, not to your detriment. And I think once you get to a point where it starts becoming detrimental, when you start getting phone calls or people start, now if they the people that are not giving you any money or any work, I wouldn't care, right? Like, just doesn't bother me. I'm like, oh, you're not, thanks for not liking my picture, right? And like she said, you go in, and the reason that she's able to command her income is because of the brand that she built, right? And that was monitoring. This is your page. You monitor it like you monitor everything else carefully, and that's pretty much my advice.
Same, I think that's pretty, I mean, clear cut. If you have something that's on your page that, yeah, get that removed. And then I would also say, you know, be mindful of what you allow others to post on your page as well. Yeah, because some of the looser language or the derogatory terms and things of that nature, you know, it shouldn't be on your page either. So it's in addition to, you know, minding what you put on there yourself, I would also be mindful of what others put to my pages.
Or what you like in comments.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you guys have been reading about,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Estee Lauder, and another brand, you know, and the gentleman said, he's been in this role for over 30 years. I think it was the CFO or whatever, CEO from Estee Lauder, and he took a meme, didn't read it, or
That's what he said.
he says he didn't read the meme. He just shared it on his page and said something like right? And so he was a Caucasian. And so he lost his job of 30 years, right? With a very prestigious company. And it was because he liked it, he shared it, you know, and it was just kind of like a mistake. And there's some things that are funny to me on social media, on TikTok, on Snapchat, or whatever. You know, there are things that are funny, but there are some things that your fingers should not press like. And it's only because somebody is watching, and you don't want that somebody to come back and you miss out on an excellent opportunity because you liked a stupid meme that was really funny, right? And so you just got, it's just like a thin line, so you have to be like really, really careful.
And I think you also have to be prepared though, like we hit delete, but it's not gone, right?
Right.
So you have to be prepared that somebody's gonna find it and you're gonna have to answer for it, right? And so if you know that there's something out there and you try to delete it, right? Be prepared that someone will find it, and how are you going to respond to it? You may have to hire somebody to help you respond to it appropriately, but you may have to respond to it, right? And yes, it may cost you some things, right? We saw when Joy Reid had that whole hullabaloo about what she put on social media, and then she had to be answering for it, and people were calling for her to be fired and taken off her show and all that stuff. But you have to be able to stand in that fire, right? Because it's something that you did, but you can talk about how you've grown and how you have moved beyond it. And it's so important what you were just saying, Karen, about, what you like and what you comment on. Listen, because of my role as an unconscious bias expert, there's lots of stuff I want to talk about and say stuff and respond to stuff, right, that people put on social media about Black Lives Matter and white privilege. And I have to really be mindful of if I respond, how I respond, right? And sometimes I don't, and sometimes I will just post something that is coded, right? But people who know me know exactly what it is I'm talking about. But you do have to be very mindful of that, of making sure that whatever is out there is on brand for you. Like the women and ladies who leverage, they know that I will call them, I will text them, and I'll be like, take that down, right? What do you think about that? Is that on brand for you? So even just as an individual person, we say you have a brand. So is that on brand for you? Getting into some pissing match with somebody on a social media because they're talking about this or they think it's funny and you want to get in on it. That's not your business. Just talk about it in your head like I do. Answer it like I'm answering in the comments, but that won't touch the book. They won't touch the Facebook, right? But answer it and then just keep it moving. Just be like, I saw that, right? But be very mindful because it doesn't go away. And if you have to answer for it, then that's a whole another.
One of the things that you all have talked about is using your brand to essentially leverage wherever you are, whatever space you're in, for your benefit, for your profit, for your profit. How would you suggest that a person uses a growing brand or a personal brand, whether it's a word of mouth brand or a social media brand? How would you, any tips on leveraging that for either a salary increase or if you, and touch on whatever you want to, a salary increase, if you want to leave the legal profession and go elsewhere, if you want to re-enter the legal profession, how do you leverage your brand to essentially get what you want, essentially? Tips on it.
Okay, so let's think.
Yeah, tips on leveraging your growing brand
I've only been in private practice since November of 2020. I quit a corporate job during a time of pandemic and protests, and probably, just like every one of us, we were all probably going through some mental health issues. And I was like, look, I am not gonna lose my mind with what's going on in the world, right? And so I thought to myself, as scary as this is, what is gonna make me better, right? What can I do? So what I did was I have a huge network, and I said, you know what? Let me call all my friends and tell them that I'm thinking about private practice. I didn't even say, like I'm there. I just say, I'm thinking about opening up my own firm. You have any work? Perhaps we can talk or meet for coffee or whatever it was, right? I think what I did was I started off with, like, your brand is already, like, who knows you? Like, who knows you already? You're already branded. Let's think about it that way. People already know you. Now, if you want to change it and make it better, that's great, because there are people like this young lady and like myself who will help you develop a brand, develop something, because it's not something that you just wake up and be like, I'm gonna be a natural hair girl, y'all, just gonna wash my hair and do it all day, and record videos. It's very strategic. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of getting rid of imposter syndrome. It takes a lot of building confidence skills. And these are not things that'll happen overnight. If you see me now, you're gonna think, oh, she's so confident. But yeah, sure, she's so confident, but she's been doing this since kindergarten, right? I grew up in a household where I had a very submissive mom, right? Because of her culture, which is very normal. But then I had a Jamaican father who was like, no, you're my son, you're gonna go and work here, do this, so he was like not playing with that. And he'd have to do the same thing. He had to code switch, he had a Jamaican accent, he came to the United States, he knew that was not gonna work. And so you take what you already have that's existing, right? You do an inventory of yourself. You do an inventory of what you want. You do something as the short-term goal, you write long-term goals, but then you start knocking some of those down and saying, okay, so today I'm just gonna, because it's a lot. Social media and branding and marketing is a lot of work, right? So you want a website, you want an Instagram, you want LinkedIn, you want focus on maybe just one, right? It doesn't have to be all of them. Or you can get to the point where you can hire somebody to do it for you and they can link all of them together, but then that raises the issue of everybody's not on all the pages, because as Kim mentioned, on LinkedIn is so super professional, right? And it was funny that she mentioned I'm so humbled and honored, because I did just put I am so humbled and honored on there. And I'm gonna tell you, I had 3 multi-million-dollar companies reach out to me. Right? So those are just like little things. Like, I don't put a lot of things on LinkedIn, but on some stuff. And so I think it's just a matter of, being open to change, being open to knowing who you are, which is probably like the hardest part that we do as women. We're very hard on ourselves. So I think that if you just start little by little, picking one of the social media avenues that you want to grow in, and I think that'll work.
So I would just add to what Karen said. I think, as women, what you have to do really boils down to prioritizing and organizing in order to grow your brand and to use it successfully for networking or compensation, whatever your goal may be. You gotta prioritize it, one. Much like, we are so busy to where, many of us have to prioritize and make an appointment on our calendar to go work out. You have to do the same thing for establishing and developing and growing your brand. And there can be a tendency in a law firm or wherever you may practice to let the work take the priority. And the work is a priority, but in terms of organizing, I had to learn how to really just establish, okay, I'm gonna get X, Y, Z done today at work. then, 3 o'clock, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to this meeting, I'm going to go out to this happy hour with this company because I wanted to have a good relationship with this client. So you really have to, much like you do anything else that is important to you, and I hear people say this all the time about working out, which is what I'm using as an example. And if we don't say like, okay, listen, from 4 to 5, I'm going to go to the gym, it probably won't get done. It will not be your priority. So you have to do the very same thing with networking, with growing your brand, and that really can be challenging for women attorneys. I became a part of the Corporate Council of Women of Color, and that is full of women who gone and started their own law firm or pursued avenues by which they can find their own ways to network because they're not making partners, they're married, they have kids, they don't have the same opportunities as the male counterparts who can literally just jump on a plane and meet with a huge potential client, or do the things that they can do to promote their brand very, very easily. So with women in particular, it really, really boils down to making sure that you make it a priority and that you just kind of organize yourself in such a way that you can still devote a certain amount of time to the work, but make sure that you set aside some time to do what you need to do to promote your brand.
And I might just say quickly because I know we're gonna end. So the thing about your brand is it's who you're being in the world and what you're doing, right? And so I talk about how you build your business badassery. That's what I teach women and ladies who leverage, right? It is understanding the vision. So when you're talking about how to leverage, the only way to properly leverage something is to understand what the vision is. What am I working towards that I need to bring these things in, right? How do I leverage people's expertise, resources, or relationships to then build that thing? So you have to understand what your vision is, like the future, where am I going, and understand what the mission is of how I'm going to get there. And that's how you'll be able to leverage all of the things of who you are and what you do in order to make sure that it all comes together.
Funny and informative. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.